What if one choice altered the fate of Westeros forever? What if fire and blood arrived too soon? The sun scorched the red sands of Dragonstone as Daenerys Targaryen stood facing the roaring sea. The flames of her dragons had not yet scorched cities, but in her eyes, the storm had already begun. News from across the narrow sea reached her ears faster than raven's wings ever could. Ned Stark, Warden of the North and Hand of the King, was interfering with her future. One whisper from Varys, one nudge from Illyrio, and her resolve turned to steel. She had dragons. She had purpose. But what she lacked was control. And so, before ever setting sail, she made a fateful decision. Kill Ned Stark. Not with a blade, not with fire, but with silence. A faceless man was paid in dragonglass and Valyrian promises. Ned Stark never made it to the dungeons. His head was found. At dawn, lying in a pool of crimson beneath the heart tree in the red, Keep's Godswood. The realm trembled. Oh my God. How did this happen? Joffrey, too young to grasp the nuance of Ned's silent death, declared it treason and demanded blood. But without Ned's confession, without his staged execution, there was no rallying cry for Robb Stark. No war cry in the North. Its quiet, paralyzing fear. Catelyn wept in Riverrun, but she didn't call the banners. Not yet in Winterfell, young Bran woke from a dream, sweat on his brow, whispering a name he couldn't understand, Daenerys. His eyes were no longer just a boy's, they were ancient. Meanwhile, across the sea, Daenerys smiled, not out of joy, but out of confirmation. She had just reshaped history with a whisper. Viserys, who still lingered in the shadows of her court, never got his crown of gold. Instead, he plodded, growing restless under her shadow. But Daenerys didn't see the spark behind his eyes. She saw only the storm ahead. She ordered the fleet to be built earlier than in the original tale. Ships would rise like ghosts from Karth to Volantis, loyal to the silver-haired queen who dared to kill a Lelantis. Stark before ever stepping on Westerosi soil. The small council of King's Landing was thrown into chaos. Varys remained silent, too silent. Littlefinger, smelling an opportunity, turned his attention to Sansa, offering her a future drenched in shadows. She was confused, but too vulnerable to deny him. With Ned gone so suddenly, her faith shattered. What came next? Oh no, no way this is happening already. Robb never became king in the North. Instead, he tried diplomacy. He traveled south under a white banner, only to be met by a Lannister army, an alliance betrayal. In Essos, Daenerys had set sail, but she brought not just dragons, she brought prophecy. She brought blood magic. She brought war before Westeros was ready for it, as the narrow sea glimmered beneath her fleet. Melisandre Long, thought loyal to Stannis, sensed the change. Her flames showed her something horrifying. The Dragon Queen was arriving before the long night, before Jon Snow could rise, before Arya could become no one, before the dead even stirred. Oh gods, this changes everything. And in the crypts of Winterfell, the old kings whispered, "She comes too soon." The winds howled over the narrow sea, carrying with them the scent of salt, steel, and smoke. Daenerys stood on the deck of her flagship, Stormborns, vengeance cloaked in black scales and silver embroidery. Her dragons, not yet full-grown, circled above, restless, sensing the blood to come. She wasn't sailing to Westeros to reclaim. She was sailing to conquer. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Tyrion Lannister listened closely behind closed doors. Whispers of Daenerys' move had reached the capital, but no one believed she would cross so soon. Not without armies. Not without allies. But they were wrong. Aegon the Conqueror had done more with less. Cersei tightened her grip on the Iron Throne, her nails digging into the lion-stitched arms. Robert Baratheon, drunk and impotent, was no longer truly king in any sense. Ned gone, Robert spiraled, his health deteriorating even faster. Within weeks, he was dead. Poison, perhaps? Or heartbreak? Oh no, not Robert too. This is spiraling out of control. Joffrey was crowned, his sneer sharper than any sword. But without Ned's televised execution, the commoners didn't rally to him, they feared him. Resentment brewed like wildfire beneath the cobbled streets, a flea bottom. And in that darkness, the Brotherhood without banners rose faster, bloodier, and more desperate than before. In the Riverlands, without Robb's war, House Frey turned its ambitions elsewhere. They reached out not to the Lannisters but to Stannis, offering him safe passage and provisions. Stannis accepted, with Melisandre whispering in his ear that the true enemy was not Cersei, but Daenerys. Dotto, and what a prophecy it was. Across the sky, the red comet streaked early a warning. A dragon comes too soon. The world is unaroused. In the north things grew strange. No war to distract them. The Night's Watch turned their attention further into the haunted forest. Jon Snow, still just a steward, followed Lord Commander Mormont beyond the wall, but something called to him. Older than the stones of Castle Black, visions haunted his dreams, visions of a girl in Fire, a queen with violet eyes. He woke each night breathless, drawn to her, fearing her. Meanwhile, Arya had escaped. Without her father's death made public, she slipped out of King's Landing unnoticed. She traveled south, not north, disguised as a boy. And there she met someone unexpected. Not the Brotherhood, not Gendry. She met a shadow with no face. Jaqen H'ghar saw her not as a tool, but as a key. He told her, fire must die before snow can live. What does that even mean? Oh my God, Arya's path has changed. Is she being turned against Daenerys now? In Essos, Daenerys docked at Dorne, the Martells. Always watching, always patient, had long hated the Lannisters. When Viserys was offered in marriage to one of the Sand Snakes, Daenerys agreed only to have her brother. Poisoned on the wedding night, the crowd cheered, the realm whispered, the Dragon Queen has no mercy, not even for blood. From the ashes of Viserys, Daenerys forged her army. With Dornish spears, unsullied precision, and sellswords bought from Braavos, she marched. Each city that resisted her was burned. Not by her dragons, but by the fury of her will. By the time she reached Storm's End, the castle bent the knee without a fight. But it was too quiet, too. Stannis had fled to the wall. Melisandre's fire screamed of a mistake. Daenerys wasn't the prince who was promised. She was the storm that would drown them all. The wall loomed like a grave monument to a forgotten, era-frozen, silent, ancient. Jon Snow stood upon its heights, watching the horizon burn. But it wasn't fire from the dead. It was the fire of dragons. Scouts returned. Breathless Daenerys had arrived at Eastwatch by the sea. Her banner bore the three-headed dragon. Ships flew Martell sails. Her soldiers marched with unsullied discipline and Dornish cruelty. And her dragons, they flew under no leash. Jon had never seen a dragon. He had never felt such a strange blend of awe and terror, Commander Mormont called. A meeting of the Night's Watch and the Queen's emissaries? Sir Barristan Selmy spoke on her behalf. He begged parley, not submission. But in Daenerys' name, he made one thing clear. She comes to unify the realms of men, or to burn them. Oh my God. She's threatening even the Night's Watch. Jon couldn't remain silent, stepped forward, breaking every rule of his sworn vows. If she's here to fight the real enemy, the dead will hear her. But Daenerys didn't come for alliance. She came for control. And as the wall's gates opened for her procession, Bronn, who had just arrived from his flight from Winterfell, collapsed the moment her dragons crossed the threshold. His eyes turned white. Visions flooded his mind. A shadow of a queen standing over ashes. A dire wolf, frozen in obsidian. The Night King's hand reaching through time, and one whispered truth. Over and over, she is the flame that must be snuffed. What? Not Daenerys. This isn't her destiny. But in another corner of the world, Varys knew. He had always known. He had hoped Daenerys would be tempered by loss, hardship, humility. But killing Ned Stark had changed her. She now walked not to liberate, but to conquer. and she was accelerating. The game, no White Walker had breached the wall yet. The long night hadn't begun, and yet Daenerys was already lighting the beacons of war at Winterfell. Sansa tried to rebuild her home, but she was alone. No Robb, no Catelyn, no Bran, no Arya. Letters from King's Landing arrived weekly, filled with thinly veiled threats. One message, however, came from a crow with black-tipped wings. A message from the Citadel. Winter is no longer coming. It is being delayed. And that is a worse fate. Oh gods. She's not just changing events. She's changing time itself. Southward, Cersei brewed her own poison. Without Tyrion at her side, she grew even more dangerous. She forged alliances not with gold, but with secrets. The Qyburn experiments began earlier. The mountain turned sooner. Her secret weapon. Not wildfire, something worse. The blood of a child with Targaryen lineage. She believed if Daenerys ruled by fire, she would rule by blood. Literally. And Jaime, he watched her spiral. But he stayed, because without war in the north, his honor had nowhere else to run. But the flame was building. Daenerys was not stopping. The library of the Citadel echoed with footsteps, far too urgent for a place of study. Samwell Tarly clutched a parchment in trembling hands. A sealed scroll marked with a sigil long forgotten, a dragon entwined with a direwolf. The ink still fresh, but the truth ancient. Jon Snow is not Ned Stark's bastard. He read the words aloud to Gilly. He is Aegon Targaryen, trueborn son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. Gilly gasped. Sam did not. He whispered, "She'll kill him." Because Daenerys was already preparing to crown herself. And across the wall, in the frost-bitten chambers of Castle Black, Jon was dreaming again. This time the dream bled. He stood in a field of fire. All around him burned children. Their eyes stared up at him, lifeless. In the distance, Daenerys stood holding Lawns. It wasn't hers, and the blade was wet with something far too red. He awoke sweating, his heart pounding in there, standing. Silently in the corner was Bran. "You need to see," Bran said. Jon touched his hand, and the truth unraveled. He saw Lyanna's bed of blood. He heard her whisper his name. He saw Rhaegar's smile, not cruel, not mad, but soft. And he saw Daenerys at Dragonstone, crowned by fire priests, chanting her name as the true god's wrath. Oh my God, Jon is the rightful heir. But Daenerys will never share the throne. Bran's eyes bled as he collapsed, his powers pushed beyond time. His visions too early, too intense ripped open the veil. And in the far north, something awoke that should not have stirred yet. The Night King opened his eyes. The timeline had shifted. The world was out of rhythm. And he was listening. Daenerys met Jon at Eastwatch. They stared at each other not as strangers, but as kindred flames. She felt it instantly. A pull, an attraction, a threat. He bent the knee. Not out of loyalty, but out of necessity, because war was coming. And because his men would never follow a queen who had already spilled noble blood before stepping foot on Westeros. Daenerys asked him why his eyes looked so haunted. He said nothing because, how do you tell someone they've already ended the world? Meanwhile, in the south, Cersei released her trump card. A captured white, not one raised by the Night King, but a failed experiment from Qyburn's lab. It moved, it screamed, it never died. She sent it to Daenerys in chains. With a note, the world you broke is fighting back. Oh my God. Even Cersei sees what's coming, and she's feeding it. At the same time, Arya arrived in Old Town. But she didn't seek healing or refuge. She sought the face of fire. The one death her god had warned her about. She had one face left to claim. Daenerys' Jaqen. Echigar had given her a blade dipped in the waters of the Rhoyne. A blade that could pierce dragon's hide. She didn't know when she would strike, only that she must. The snows came early, too early. Blizzards swallowed the lands beyond the wall, coating the battlements of Castle Black in a thick, suffocating silence. The Night's Watch sent no more ravens. Eastwatch had fallen, but not to the dead. To flame one of Daenerys's dragons, Rhaegal had gone rogue, scouring the coastline in blind fury. No order, no command, no reason, just fire. It was supposed to be a show of strength. Instead, it was chaos. And Jon watched, helpless, as smoke spiraled into the sky. Dozens of men burned before his eyes, brothers of the Watch. Daenerys refused to apologize. They defied my command, she said coldly. They would have betrayed me. I showed them mercy by making it quick. Jon turned away. He couldn't look her in the eye anymore. Oh no. She's slipping into madness even faster. This isn't the breaker of chains. This is the reaper of. In Winterfell, Sansa received word of the burning of Eastwatch. She knew then that the North would never accept Daenerys. Not now. And yet, she also knew. Jon had sided with her. She stared at the Raven's scroll with dry eyes and began drafting letters. One to Yara Greyjoy, one to the Eyrie, and one to Arya. You must stop her before Jon can't. In Old Town, Arya read the letter. She traced the ink with the same finger that once held needle. She whispered, Valor Morgulus. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Jaime stood before the Iron Throne. Cersei sat upon it like a lioness waiting to strike. She's coming here, Jaime said. Jaime said, Good. Jaime frowned. You mean to parley? Cersei smiled. Mean to give her what she gave us. Fear. She had wildfire hidden. Beneath the city. It's time, not in the sept, in the Red Keep itself. If I burn, she burns. Jaime's hand trembled. This is it. He has to make a choice. This is where he becomes the Kingslayer again, back at the wall. Bran was comatose, but not still. He wandered the threads of time, lost in visions too complex to anchor him. He saw the Night King standing at a great wall of black glass. He saw Arya dancing with death in the shape of a queen, and he saw Jon, alone, buried in snow, whispering Daenerys' name before the light left his eyes. Then a voice echoed in the void. Only the wolf can stop the flame. Only death can save the living.
Bran
Awoke, screaming. Jon heard it, and in that moment, he knew he had to stop Daenerys, but she was already moving south. The golden fields of the Reach trembled as Daenerys' army passed through. She no longer accepted surrender. Tarly's soldiers were burned in rows. Villages were emptied, rebuilt in her image. Out. She called it cleansing the rot. Tyrion tried to reason with her. We need allies, not ashes. She glared at him. Ashes are loyal. He stopped sleeping, stopped speaking, and began writing. A letter to Jon, a letter to Arya, and finally, a letter to Varys. Oh my God, Tyrion's turning. He knows she has to be stopped. But will he act in time? The godswood of Winterfell had never been so still. Jon Snow knelt beneath the heart tree, Longclaw resting across his knees. Snowflakes danced down like ghosts, each one melting on his skin. But he didn't feel the cold. He was fire, now Targaryen by blood, wolf by heart. And the two sides of him were at war. The letter from Tyrion trembled in his hand. She's no longer listening. Her mercy has become myth, her fury, prophecy. She reaches the capital. No throne will be left to claim. Arya emerged from the shadows. Jon didn't turn. You knew, she said. I suspected. She burned the wall, Jon, I know. She burned more. Jon stood. Need to stop her. Arya's eyes narrowed. You won't be able to. He looked at her, truly looked. Will you? Her silence answered. Oh my God. Jon and Arya are preparing for war against Daenerys. This wasn't meant to happen. South of Harrenhal, Daenerys' war machine thundered. The gold cloaks surrendered without a fight. The Lannister men defected by the hundreds. Banners were set ablaze and replaced with her three-headed dragon. Yet the closer she came to King's Landing, the more hollow her victories became. Her dreams were no longer of peace. They were of screams. Ser Jorah, still by her side, tried one last plea. This is not who you are, Khaleesi. I am not who I was, she replied coldly. I am what Westeros needs, but at what cost? She turned to him, eyes wet with flame. All of it. That night, Dragon soared above the capital. Cersei ordered the scorpions readied. Wildfire caches armed. She wanted the city to explode if the dragon queen entered. Jaime couldn't watch it happen. He fled the Red Keep under moonlight, his golden hand wrapped in shadow, but Varys had already moved. His little birds were whispering poison into every ear. The people feared Daenerys more than Cersei. And fear, Varys knew, is a throne stronger than stone. He approached Jon in secret. You are the rightful king. I want no crown. But you have something she's losing. What's that? Restraint. Jon hesitated. Varys smiled. That, my prince, is rarer than dragons. At dawn, Daenerys stood at the gates of King's Landing. Thousands of unsullied Dothraki and Martell troops behind her. The Red Keep ahead, city cowering in silence, and then she waited. Jon approached through the ashes, his sword unbelted, cloak torn. Stand aside, she said. You'll kill them all. He said, they chose Cersei. They didn't choose anything. She stepped closer. Do you still love me? Jon's breath caught. He remembered her kiss, her fire, her vision of a better world. He also remembered Eastwatch love, he said, is not blind. It sees, and it still chooses. She touched his chest. Then choose me. And he did. He chose. The dagger. Oh my God, Jon stabbed her. But she caught his wrist, eyes wide, tears streaming the blade inches from her heart, and Drogon screamed above them, a sound that shook the heavens. Arya stood on a rooftop, blade in hand. Watching, she had been ready to strike. Now, she didn't know if she needed to. Jon's blade trembled in Daenerys' grip. Her hand wrapped tight around his wrist, shook not with effort, but with heartbreak. You were supposed to be with me, she whispered. Jon's voice broke. You were supposed to be better. And then she let go. The dagger fell, but not. Into her chest, it hit the stone at their feet. Jon looked down, stunned. Daenerys stepped back, her eyes aflame, not with rage, but resolve. You had your chance. Dragon descended, landing behind her like a shadow made flesh. The earth split under his weight. Flames licked his maw. Soldiers of both sides held their breath. But then the city gates opened, and from the Red Keep walked Jaime Lannister, alone. Armor tarnished, no sword, no banner. He stood before Daenerys and knelt. I surrender, he said, then looked up right into her eyes and added, so no one else has to.
Us.
A silence as heavy as Valyrian steel followed until Cersei appeared atop the battlements and behind her a child. Oh my God. She wasn't lying. She's actually pregnant. Daenerys' hand clenched. She turned to Jon. They'll use that child as a Lannister heir. They'll raise it in fear if you burn this city. They'll never fear me enough if I don't. Jon stepped forward, blocking her path. Then burn me first, Drogon growled. The Unsullied raised their spears. Arya readied her blade from above, finger on the hilt of a god-killer dagger. And in that moment, time broke. Bran screamed from Winterfell, his body writhing in the god's wood. He saw the timelines split in one. Daenerys burns King's Landing and sits alone on the throne, crowned in ash. In another, she is struck down. And Jon is crowned but dies within the year. And in the third, the child is born under a red sky. No throne, no walls, just cold and blue eyes. Bran whispered one word to the air. Stop. Suddenly ravens hundreds filled the sky over King's Landing, their wings blotted. Out the sun. Their cries pierced the hearts of every soldier. Drogon roared upward in confusion. A storm of feathers and shadow engulfed the city, and then the sky split. A horn blew, not from man, from death. The Night King had reached the gates of the Eyrie. What? The Night King bypassed the wall? But how? He was never supposed to move this early, but the chaos of time, the imbalance of fate, had accelerated everything. Bran had seen it too late. Jon turned to Daenerys. Westeros needs us both. Her eyes, still burning, wavered. But not like this. And in that moment, just that moment, Daenerys stepped back. Jaime stood. The child was taken from Cersei's arms by Tyrion, who had just arrived through the sewer tunnels. Arya vanished from her perch, and Drogon turned north. Daenerys followed, because death had come early. The moon cast a pale blue light over the area, but it was not moonlight. It was him. The Night King stood at the base of the mountain, his hands outstretched. Snow fell upward. Trees froze in place. The mountain itself wept frost, and then he raised them, from the valleys, from the rivers. In the very bones of the Vale the dead came. Ancient kings of the Arryn line, long buried in crypts, rose in. Tattered robes and rotted armor, they answered his call, silent and loyal. The Eyrie had never fallen in battle until now. No, 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 no. Not the Eyrie. Not that fast. Jon and Daenerys rode north. Side by side, they said nothing. Between them flew ravens and dragons, each trying to outrun the storm behind them. At Winterfell, Sansa gathered what forces remained. She stood atop the ramparts with Arya and Bran staring toward the horizon, where the skies had darkened unnaturally. "What do we do when they arrive?" she asked. Bran's voice was hollow. "Pray the dead still remember fear." Arya clenched her jaw. "And if they don't? Then we remind them." Inside the great hall, Tyrion pored over ancient scrolls from the citadel, desperately searching. For anything missed? Symbols, songs, shadows, names? One phrase repeated over and over in the margins of a broken maester's journal. "The wolf must bleed before the flame is reborn." Tyrion looked up at Jon. "I hope you're ready to die." Jon's silence was answer enough. In the distance, Varys' spies watched the Night King tear through the riverlands. His army grew with each passing hour, not by hundreds, by thousands. The White Walkers did not wait for winter anymore. Winter was sprinting, and now they had something else. The horn of winter believed. Al-Hun, lost, had been unearthed from the ruins of the First Men's last fortress. Its cry had shattered the wall in Bran's vision, but here was even worse. Its cry shook the roots of the weirwood trees, and one by one, the gods began to fall silent. Bran screamed again. This time blood poured from his eyes. "They've unmade the old magic," he said. "We have nothing but ourselves now. Oh gods, even the magic is breaking. This isn't just a war, it's an extinction." Daenerys arrived at Winterfell to a quiet, grim welcome. No cheers, no horns. Just eyes full of fear. She didn't ask for loyalty. She only asked for firewood. Jon watched her from the ramparts. She no longer wore her crown. She no longer smiled. They stood together before the last council. Sansa, Arya, Tyrion, Bran, Gendry. Davos, Brienne, Sam, Bran laid out the only option. We must divide the forces. If he reaches the heart tree, he wins. All of it. Reality, memory. The line of men, Arya added. Then we kill him first. Brienne volunteered to lead the charge. Jon and Daenerys would fly, not to the front, but to him, directly, and Bran would wait beneath the heart tree again. Night fell, the longest night, and from the woods beyond the castle walls came the whisper of bones. The war had begun. The snow fell. Sideways, Winterfell groaned beneath the weight of time and fate. On its outer walls, torches flickered, their flames defiant. In the Godswood, Bran sat in his chair beneath the ancient heart tree, eyes milky white, spirits soaring across broken timelines. He watched every version of this battle unfold. In all of them, someone he loved died screaming. The first wave hit just before midnight. Skeletons with shattered blades. Corpses wearing the sigils of houses long extinguished. Giant wights with tusks of black ice. They moved with one mind, the Night King's. Brienne led the charge with Podrick at her side, roaring like a lion. Gendry fought with a warhammer forged from dragonglass. Arya vanished into the chaos like a ghost, and then the sky tore open. Jon and Daenerys, mounted on Rhaegal and Drogon, flew into the storm above. Lightning streaked the heavens. Wind howled so loud it drowned out the screams below. In the center of the battlefield, the Night King waited, unmoving, unflinching, smiling. Oh my God, he wants them to come. He's planned this all along. Tyrion and Sam watched from the ramparts. Sam held a scroll too fragile to even breathe on, it says. Not just after Bran, Sam muttered. What then? Aunt Tyrion asked. Sam swallowed. He's after her. After Daenerys. Why? Because she was never supposed to come early. Her crossing before the prophecy was fulfilled and balanced the world. He doesn't want to kill her. Tyrion's eyes widened. He wants to use her. Above, the dragons collided. Viserion, reborn in ice, descended like death incarnate. His flame blue and screaming met dragon's fire midair. The explosion threw both creatures backward, and Daenerys tumbled from dragon's back straight into the snow. Jon screamed, diving after her, rolling through the snowdrifts, just as the Night King stepped forward. He didn't raise his arms. He didn't summon the dead, he whispered. Blood of fire, soul of storm, burn the world with me. Daenerys gasped. Her eyes flickered gold for just a second. Jon stood between them, sword drawn. You won't touch her. The Night King lifted one finger. Jon charged in the godswood. Arya sprinted through the trees. She saw Bran. She saw the white approaching from behind him. Silent. She threw her dagger, missed. Bran didn't blink. He spoke, his voice echoing through the roots. Now. Arya turned and saw someone she had not expected. Catelyn Stark, white, screaming. Broken. Oh God, not her mother. Arya's knees buckled, but she didn't hesitate. She stabbed her, clean final then. Ran toward the heart tree. Back in the snowstorm, Jon fought like a wolf cornered. Rhaegal crashed near him, crushing ice whites beneath his wings. But the Night King never lifted a weapon. He moved like silence itself. Then Daenerys stood. Her hand burned. Her eyes now glowed gold. The Night King smiled. She took one step toward him, and then Arya appeared behind him again, this time with the God-Killer. Blade she stabbed. He caught her midair, smiling, and whispered, You are late. Arya gasped and vanished in a shock of cold. Oh my God, no, she's gone. She failed. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then Jon rose, screaming, sword ablaze with fire. He lunged, and Drogon roared behind him. The flame blinded the battlefield, and the Night King vanished. Silence fell, but something wasn't right. Daenerys had not moved. She stood trembling in her breath. Foji. Jon reached for her. Her eyes turned to him and were blue. Oh my God. He got her. He took her. He didn't want to kill her, wanted to turn her. Winterfell stood broken. Fires burned low. The snow was red now. In the godswood, the heart tree bled from a crack along its face, its sap black as night. And Bran, the three-eyed raven, whispered through trembling lips, She has become what he could not. Jon Snow stumbled from the battlefield. His sword, Longclaw, still glowed faintly with dying fire. Behind him, the dragon Rhaegal wheezed, wounded, one wing dragging in the bloodied earth. Ahead of him stood Daenerys, but this was no queen. Skin shimmered faintly like frost beneath flame. Her eyes no longer burned violet. They glowed the glacial blue of the undead. Her breath curled visibly in the air, even as the snow around her feet melted into steam. She spoke, but her voice echoed twofold. Her own. And his you would not let me rule. So now I will end the game. Forever. Jon dropped to his knees. Tears ran down his face. Dany, please, fight him. She approached. Your love was too late. Then, she raised her hand and Drogon obeyed. Rising behind her, the great beast, now half flesh, half shadow, unfurled his wings and unleashed a roar that shook the stars. But he didn't burn Jon. He waited. He was waiting for the queen's final command. In the godswood, Arya stirred. She had not died. The Night King had flung her between timelines, frozen her between beats of destiny, but Bran had found her. He had pulled her back. Now she rose, broken but breathing, and ran toward the battlements, toward Jon, toward the blade, because only one remained, and she was already too late. Or was she? Jon stood, looked into Daenerys' face, his queen, and his enemy. He said one word, "Forgive me," and then he stabbed himself, right in the heart. "Oh my God!" Daenerys gasped. A cry tore from her throat, half rage, half agony. The blue faded, the flame flickered, and for a moment, just a moment, her eyes were violet again. She rushed to him, caught him, held him. "Why?" she whispered. Jon, fading fast, smiled weakly. "Because you were worth saving." And then Arya appeared. The blade was in her hand. She plunged. It threw Daenerys' back straight into her heart. Fire exploded outward. Not flame, not heat, but memory. The wall, the throne, the dragons, the war's every echo of pain and power flashed in a single burst of light. Dragon shrieked, flung himself into the sky, and vanished into the clouds. And both Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen fell together. Dead spring came early that year. The snows melted. The dead stayed dead. The Night King was never seen again. But something had changed. The Iron Throne melted away. Never to be REFORG. ED.WESTEROS. No longer belonged to kings and queens. It belonged to the people. Sansa ruled the North. Independent and wise, Arya sailed west, chasing the end of the world. Bran, reborn, did not become king. He became legend, and Tyrion titled it the Queen Who Broke the Game.